Among Us is now one of the most popular games ever made, where 8 crewmates are hunted down by 2 imposters among their ship. We all know the game, but the greater story of Among Us is lesser known. Today I will be going through, map by map, along with every little bit of extra media, trying to piece together the story of Among Us. But first, I am a crewmate today. Among Us. Get it? I put my name in a word that's in the title of the game. I'm funny. I'm just doing my tasks. Nothing sussy about me. So if you clicked on this video, I think there's a 95% chance that you've played Among Us and know how it works. But for anyone that doesn't know, and I'm probably talking to the 0.01% of my audience that is 65 plus, I'm going to quickly explain it. Bear with me, it won't take very long. The standard way of playing is typically with 10 players. 8 of them are crewmates, and you have to do various tasks around the map. 2 of the 10 are imposters, and their goal is to kill the crewmates. The goal of the crewmates are to oust the imposters, and the goal of the imposters is to obviously kill everyone. After the imposter kills someone, their body is left for someone to discover. Either a crewmate or imposter can report it, which summons all players to the conference table for a meeting, and from there the players can discuss where they've been, and they must prove their innocence or point blame. And from that, whoever was voted, you can eject them into space or burn them alive, all depends on the map. It's a little more nuanced than that, but you get the gist. It's like a video game version of the 1980s movie, The Thing. First, the characters. Well, there aren't really characters, besides the crewmates, and none of them are really different. They are different colors, and some have different jobs, but they are functionally all the same. I don't know if they are humans, they breathe air, they have blood. They are only 3'6" and weigh 92 pounds. All of them do. There is no difference between them. They also have stubby feet and Rayman hands, meaning they have no arms, just floating hands. If you happen to have a job, your options are Engineer, who can vent around, something only the imposters can do. Guardian Angel, you can only be this after death and it protects fellow players. Scientist, they have portable vitals of every player, making sure they are alive. Noisemaker, who releases a noise upon death, signaling the direction of the body. A Tracker, can, not surprisingly, track players. And if you're not a crewmate, you're an imposter, who is not the same as a crewmate. The imposters have been infected with a parasite that takes over the body of the crewmate. The 2 possible roles for imposters are Shapeshifter, where they can turn into a different color to trick the crewmates, or you can be a Phantom, where you can temporarily be invisible and run away. The crewmates work for a company called MIRA. It is mostly unknown what they really do at the company, however, it's definitely some sort of research. They travel planet to planet and collect data and other information. They also likely collect information about the parasite that causes the imposters. It is unknown where the parasite comes from, but the crewmates seem to take it everywhere they go. MIRA calls these very tall buildings home. It's called MIRA HQ. It is here where they upload all of their data and information. In MIRA HQ, it's important to mention they have a decontamination hallway. I would assume this is to hopefully prevent the imposter parasite. In the leftmost area of the map, there's a small little transport pod that brings them to most of their places. One of the places is the Skeld, a rather large spaceship that constantly flies through space. Aboard the Skeld, there's multiple places to download information. Again, it's rather unclear what the information is that they use. I mean, they're in space. There's not much out there. There's a room for communications, so it's possible they are picking up various signals. There's also an area for shooting down asteroids, or it could be potentially used for shooting down enemies, although that has yet to be seen. Their spaceship is obviously used mainly for transportation from planet to planet, assumingly for their research. But I'm not exactly sure where their ship goes when it's time to land. I know they send down the dropship, but does the Skeld just stay in the air? It doesn't matter. But anyway, speaking of planets, there are 2 we surely know about. And I can't even say for sure that they're 2 different planets. Polis and Fungal. We know the crewmates go to the planets to study life, geology, and they mine. They're also probably looking for a new place to call home and become free of the imposters, although that is likely very hard to do. We can speculate that the crewmates picked up an imposter somewhere in space and they invaded the Skeld, because the imposter parasite was not originally in MIRA HQ or Polis. Anyway, we'll begin with Polis. Polis is a planet with purple ground, cold climates, but a very hot core, with a lava river near the surface. The crewmates have set up a few different buildings on Polis, most of which have similar functions to rooms on the Skeld. There's reactors, communications, a greenhouse, and most importantly, a decontamination place. If it's not clear enough already, they're trying to rid the parasite off of this planet. it's safe to assume the decontamination area was built later than the other buildings on this planet, because when they first arrived on Polis, the parasite was not an issue. However, Polis ends up being uninhabitable, possibly due to multiple reasons, but the imposter parasite is most likely. They begin searching for another planet. The new planet, or at least island, they found was called Fungal, which is overrun with mushrooms and fungi. It seems they weren't able to do much research on it prior to flying over it, because as soon as they got close to the island, the mushrooms quickly spread within the Skeld and started destroying it from within, even though they hadn't landed yet. There wasn't much time for the crewmates to escape, but luckily, they made it to their dropship and launched it. The Skeld unfortunately blew up in the sky, and all of the debris fell down to the island. When the dropship landed, it too was destroyed. Now the crewmates are stuck on this island with seemingly no escape as of now. They have used the wreckage and debris to build some makeshift walls and bases, and have somewhat salvaged some of the equipment and have made a communications area. Their lives are looking rather bleak on this island. To make it all worse, they still have to deal with the imposter parasite, but now their methods are a bit more primitive. They use a conch shell to sound the alarm now, and whoever is voted out is no longer ejected in the vacuum of space, but is now giving a Viking funeral type send-off, where they put him on a raft and set it ablaze. There's one remaining map I have not talked about, and admittedly, I don't exactly know where it fits in the timeline. The last map is the Airship. It's owned by a crime syndicate called the Topat Clan, which is from a completely different game, made by the same company of Among Us. The game is Henry Stickmin. There are various references between the games, but this is the most direct. That and a character named Polis from Henry Stickmin most likely named the planet Polis. This is a very large location where the crewmates do their typical tasks and have to fight off the imposters. It's entirely possible, and even likely, that the group of crewmates aboard the Skeld that crashed on the fungal island is just a small portion of MIRA, and the reason we know of more crewmates going to the airship is because they are just another section of MIRA. Other than that, I am absolutely hornswoggled on how the airship fits into the timeline. And now, onto the animated show. Oh. There's only a trailer, and it will probably be years before it releases. Okay, well, I guess I'll check back on that later. I doubt it will really offer anything new. It just seems like an animated version of Among Us. Duh. But you know how sometimes with adapted shows like this, the writers sometimes take their own liberties with certain aspects of the IP. But it seems rather true to the game, but I'm only basing that on a trailer. Really though, like, what could you do for a show like this? If you have an entire season, multiple episodes, what are the side stories going to be? I don't know. I have a hard time seeing it, but it might surprise me. The show has a pretty stacked cast though if it all becomes true. I think I mapped out most of the game. It's still getting updates as far as I know, and I'm sure only more and more media will come out for it. We all have the 2020 pandemic to thank for the popularity of this game. We were all stuck inside and had nothing better to do than watch a bunch of streamers play it, and then we would watch the VODs of the other streamers that played with them to watch their point of view of the same game. Ah, good times. This game miraculously made some of those streamers popular, and some have completely faded away. Anyway, remember to stay sussy, my fellow sussy bakas.